You
That's
notice that when Paul says whether now or later,
mm-hmm.
that's a different message than, at least in the evangelical church, than you get when they're trying to get you to walk aisle, raise hands and walk aisles and things, and they're like, you got to get saved today. Paul doesn't box them in quite like that.
Yeah, that's
Paul seems to
interesting.
be like, now would be great, later'd be great. I don't know how God's going to do it. Maybe I'm just the seed that's going to be planted and he's going to use other things. But whether now or later, what I'm praying for is that somehow you'll come to the knowledge of Jesus. You know what I mean?
Right. That's
Paul
interesting.
doesn't box God in, and Paul doesn't box Agrippa in. And
Yeah,
I think that that's an important.
he definitely understands that it's a process. I mean, look what he does. He spends just years in prison writing letters to all these
Yeah.
communities, encouraging them. He must know. He must just know. Not everyone's going to have that bright light that knocks you to the ground and changes you in one moment. Like he understands the seed planting process.
Welcome, everyone, to Beers with Jesus, Todd's World. Carrie's here.
Hello.
I, the aforementioned Todd, am here. How's it going, guys? Thanks for joining us today. How's it going, Carrie?
Going really well. How about you?
Good.
Doing
So news
coffee.
came out yesterday.
Yeah.
We recorded news yesterday. Now we're recording beers the day after. So if you guys haven't listened to news, check news out. The Wildly Opinionated News Hour. It's all on Todd's World. We drop News Hour on Tuesdays, Beers with Jesus on Wednesdays. Our politics and religion.
Yep. I'm sure everyone missed us last week. We took a week off.
Yeah, we did take a week off. Now we're back. Carrie was out of town for a little bit and enjoyed some time with friends.
Yep.
And then I had Annie. I had like a wild Annie the musical weekend because my daughter was Miss Hannigan, one of the lead roles in Annie.
So
and they did
awesome.
such a great job. It was a lot of fun. So
Love that.
how many shows? I think I saw 4 shows last week.
You saw 4? How many did they do total?
They did 4 total.
Okay.
But I didn't go to the Saturday matinee.
Okay.
I went to the Saturday closing show at 7.
Okay.
And they did, and I went to the dress rehearsal.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I went Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night.
Wow.
A lot of Annie.
Good
It was
for
fun,
you.
though. It was a lot of fun. And Will, our old buddy, went to 2 of them with me.
That's wonderful.
Can you believe it?
Of course. Oh my gosh. He loves you guys.
It was great. Kate was really excited. So
So fun.
So now we're back.
We are back. I'm sure everyone missed us.
Of course. You went to church this morning, right? I'm not going to church this morning. This is Sunday, but I've got some other things going on.
Yeah.
My Sunday show is going to be making breakfast for my kids.
There you go. Could watch it. Do you ever watch something online? I mean, I know you do.
Yeah.
You do a lot. Like you watch preacher recordings.
Well, I listen throughout the
stuff
week
like
to
that.
a lot of different things, on sermons and whatever. And then, I was thinking about when I'm doing breakfast later, throwing on a Sunday show. I haven't decided which one, which particular flavor today.
Yeah. Yeah, church was great this morning. It was really.
What'd you learn, Carrie?
Well, it was
What'd you learn from the guy up there with the funny dress turning bread into Jesus?
What I learned
Does it sound like Catholics to anybody?
Oh
That's how I describe Catholics.
You're so mean.
My own daughter's turning into one.
I know. You got to stop mocking us. I figured maybe after Lauren is done, maybe you'll stop mocking us.
Well, I mock them. It's all in good fun.
I know.
I make fun of myself, too.
It was really good. I mean, no one asked me to, move, lower my arms. No one.
They didn't?
No.
You were okay?
I was fine. No, it was really good. We talked about the blind man whose eyes Jesus put the paste on and sent him. Mm-hmm. And
that's a good story.
It was a good story. And
there's a lot in that story.
Yeah, it's long, and they read the very long version of it. And Father Matt got up there and talked about how we're really always focused on the miracle of his blindness being healed. He says, but 2 miracles take place. And he talked about his progression of faith through the experience.
Okay.
And so
he had to wash before he was healed. He had to obey. And
right. But he didn't really know. Like at first he first he
He
didn't.
wasn't even looking for healing. He wasn't
Right,
looking for a miracle.
exactly. And he then didn't really he was like, "Yeah, he's a prophet," but then by the end, he learns who Jesus actually is. So it was the miracle of his faith. It was the other aspect of that. So we just talked about
And
that.
Jesus isn't afraid to get down into the mud to effectuate our healing,
Right.
which I think could be uh, an allegory for exactly what he did by coming in general to earth, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's very
He
true.
wasn't afraid to come down into the mud and to help us clean up because
Exactly.
we couldn't clean ourselves up, I think is
Mhm.
maybe that's an easy way to think of the gospel message.
Right. We
So,
also the reading goes on, and he's retelling the story over and over again, and we were kinda like, "Why?" Because we were reading it on the way to church. We were talking about it before we got there. And it's like, "Why are
yeah.
they doing why is what a weird account." It almost seems weird when you're reading the whole thing.
Mhm.
And what we learned
Is
was
that in Matthew or Luke? I can't
it was in
remember.
John
Oh, it's
chapter
in John.
9, like the
Okay.
first
That was
41
way off.
41
Samsonite.
verses. Well, no, I mean, we read it in Mark, like, you and I did,
Yeah.
but no, we were just saying how the reason they went through all that is because you see that the Pharisees are really pressuring him for the info.
Yeah.
Like, they're just, like, relentlessly just going after him for I think also to kind of trap him because
Mhm.
they're really going after followers of Jesus at that point, but anyway, they just keep going, they keep after him and after him, so anyway, it
Yeah.
was really good. It was
Good
good.
job. That's
It
awesome.
was very
Well,
nice.
today we are in Acts 21. We're 26. Acts
26.
26. We've only got 3 chapters left in Acts. We're going to get through one of them today. That should give us 2 weeks left.
Wow.
And we're going into Genesis, which I'm real excited about. I know people may not be excited about it, but I'm telling you, it's going to be fabulous.
It'll be, like,
It will
right
probably
after
be
Easter.
the best version of the Genesis story you've ever heard.
You know
That'd be
what?
my guess.
It's gonna be I know it's going to be illuminating for me. I hope it is for the listeners too. I can't remember the last time I read any Genesis in
It's the beginning of the story, the
right.
beginning of the whole story.
Like, a lot of it, like, I can't think of the last time I read a big
Yeah.
chunk of Genesis. It covers, like, a lot of it's more
You're
than
gonna
just
like it.
creation. Covers a lot of territory.
I think I've got a good way to go through it that people will find real interesting and
I'm
engaging.
excited.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that won't get down and roll around in all the like scientific disagreements about everything. That's where I'm real uninterested in all of that, and I'm real interested in the
Okay.
story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
all the little details and all the little how long everything took. I'm real uninterested in that,
Okay.
but I'm real interested in the overall story of it. You
Okay.
know what I mean? And
Sure.
so hopefully people I think they'll find it really enjoyable.
Yeah.
So, and that's only kind of on the first part. Once you hit Genesis 14, then you're kind of Abraham. We're going to learn you kind of it's the story of the patriarchs, and those stories are great. You got Abraham,
Mhm.
Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, all the way through,
Oh my
and
gosh.
so it's a lot of fun. So, all right. Well, today I'm going to read this week. We just kind of walk through the stories of the Bible. So
Mhm.
we read through. We read the message, because that's the best. I happen to like it. I love the narrative feel and approach that Eugene Peterson
Yeah.
takes with this translation.
And I got mine on Amazon, the large print, which is regular print.
It's like $5 or $6 or
Yeah, it
something.
was great.
It's like they're paying you. Can't afford it. Not get it. Okay. So Acts 26. I'll read this week.
Okay,
I'm going to read through the chapter and then we're going to talk about it. Kind of
cool.
our typical thing that we do. Even if we are without beers on Beers with Jesus this morning, I've got some
I
coffee.
know I have coffee.
I
Up
drank myself out of beer during the Big Ten tournament
up
yesterday.
late.
And I haven't gone back out.
You can get some later.
I didn't start out with that many, to be fair. So
That's all right. Feels a little early to be drinking,
I know.
you
I'm
know.
with you. All right, guys. Acts 26. To give you just the quick
Yeah.
overview,
Mhm.
Paul had come off his third missionary journey,
Mhm.
and went to Jerusalem, really wanted to go to Jerusalem, was told multiple times through prophecies on his way to Jerusalem at different places that he stopped, don't go to Jerusalem. You're going to end up imprisoned. And then he doesn't end up in prison, but he still
Yes.
felt like he should go. So he ends up in prison.
Mhm.
The Jews hate him. No big shock there.
Right.
They want to kill him. What's a little bit of a shock is how long they hold on to the hatred. Like he's imprisoned for like 2 years. And listen, maybe it's kind of a house arrest kind of thing. It says they gave him the run of the place,
Oh, that's right.
so he could have people come in, but he's still in prison. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
he can't leave.
He can't just go down to the ice cream store. So you know what I mean? So um so for 2 years, then they start with who's that first governor?
Felix.
Felix, and then it moves to Festus. They
Festus.
get a new governor
Yep.
who's in charge of the Jerusalem, the Judean territory there, where
Mhm.
the Rome is, of course, the world power, and we're probably only, I don't know, 10 years away from the Jewish rebellion, where
Oh,
Titus
right.
ends up going in and just destroying the temple in Jerusalem and all of it, and it's kind of the end of everything that God had been working on through the Old Testament, I think, and he kind of puts that exclamation point on it. But right here, we're not quite there yet.
Mhm.
So Agrippa has come. They call him King Agrippa, one of the Herods.
Mhm.
So you would have these Roman governors that would be in authority over these kings, but then below them would be these kind of kings and nobles and different things that were there before that but now they answer to Rome, if
Okay.
that makes sense. And Agrippa was a Jew. His mother had been a Jew. He's
Okay.
very familiar with with Jewish religion and with their culture and their practices.
Mhm.
And so Agrippa and his wife Bernice come to welcome Festus, and Festus says, "Listen, I got this guy. He's been here for 2 years with Felix. He never did anything with him,
Mhm.
and I want you to hear his story. And here, the Jews hate him. The Jews want to kill him, but this guy's name is Paul." And Agrippa's like, "Bring him in," and that's where we start
Yeah,
in Acts
it's
26.
kind of like every time there's a political, position filled by someone new, Paul gets reassessed, like,
Yeah, he's got
sized
to
up
start all
by
over.
yep. So
Because they're like, "Why is this guy just hanging out? What is going on? This is not typical for the Rome." One of the things that Rome was pretty good on
mhm.
was their justice system.
Right.
And
S
Paul was a Roman citizen, and this is not how Roman citizens were typically dealt with.
Yep.
And so Paul eventually appeals to Caesar. That appeal to Caesar is kind of reminiscent of us in America appealing to the Supreme Court.
Oh,
It's
yep.
different in that it was guaranteed that as a Roman citizen, you could have your day before Caesar. It might not be Caesar, it might be a tribunal that was in Rome, whatever,
Okay.
that was representing Caesar,
Mhm.
but same idea. Whereas with the Supreme Court, there's no guarantee that you're going to get there. You have to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Most cases are rejected before they ever
Right.
get to the Supreme Court. But in Rome, that was a guarantee. You could
Mhm.
go to Caesar if you wanted to go to Caesar and make your case, and that was the final kind of the final deal. So
Okay.
Paul has appealed to Caesar. He's been there for 2 years,
Mhm.
and he's tired of it. He's like, I'm tired of saying the same old story over and over again and defending myself.
Mhm.
But he's got one more time, and it's in front of King Agrippa, and that's today.
Okay.
And he doesn't even really defend himself. He pretty much, well, you'll see.
Okay.
All right, Acts 26.
Alright.
Agrippa spoke directly to Paul. Go ahead, tell us about yourself. Paul took the stand and told his story. I can't think of anyone, King Agrippa, before whom I'd rather be answering all these Jewish accusations than you, knowing how well you are acquainted with Jewish ways and all our family quarrels. From the time of my youth, my life has been lived among my own people in Jerusalem. Practically every Jew in town who watched me grow up, and if they were willing to stick their necks out, they'd tell you in person, knows that I lived as a strict Pharisee, the most demanding branch of our religion. It's because I believed it and took it seriously, committed myself heart and soul to what God promised my ancestors. The identical hope, mind you, that the 12 tribes have lived for night and day all these centuries. It's because I have held on to this tested and tried hope that I'm being called on the carpet by the Jews. They should be the ones standing trial here, not me. For the life of me, I can't see why it's a criminal offense to believe that God raises the dead. I admit that I didn't always hold to this position. For a time, I thought it was my duty to oppose this Jesus of Nazareth with all my might. Backed with the full authority of the high priest, I threw these believers, I had no idea they were God's people, into the Jerusalem jail right and left, and whenever it came to a vote, I voted for their execution. I stormed through their meeting places, bullying them into cursing Jesus, a one-man terror obsessed with obliterating these people. And then I started on the towns outside Jerusalem. One day, on my way to Damascus, armed as always with papers from the high priest authorizing my actions, excuse me,
Hmm.
right in the middle of the day, a blaze of light outshining the sun, poured out of the sky on me and my companions. Oh, King, it was so bright, we fell flat on our faces. Then I heard a voice in Hebrew, Saul, Saul, why are you out to get me? Why do you insist on going against the grain? I said, Who are you, Master? The voice answered, I am Jesus, the one you're hunting down like an animal. But now, up on your feet, I have a job for you. I've handpicked you to be my servant and witness to what's happened today and to what I am going to show you. I'm sending you off to open the eyes of the outsiders so they can see the difference between dark and light and choose light, to see the difference between Satan and God and choose God. I'm sending you off to present my offer of sins forgiven and a place in the family, inviting them into the company of those who begin real living by believing in me. What could I do, King Agrippa? I couldn't just walk away from a vision like that. I became an obedient believer on the spot. I started preaching this life change, this radical turn to God and everything it meant in everyday life, right there in Damascus. Went on to Jerusalem and the surrounding countryside, and from there to the whole world. It's because of this whole world dimension that the Jews grabbed me in the temple that day and tried to kill me. They want to keep God for themselves. But God has stood by me just as he promised, and I'm standing here saying what I've been saying to anyone, whether king or child, who will listen. And everything I'm saying is completely in line with what the prophets and Moses said would happen. 1, the Messiah must die. 2, raised from the dead, he would be the first rays of God's daylight shining on people far and near, people both godless and God-fearing. That was too much for Festus. He interrupted with a shout, Paul, you're crazy. You read too many books, spent too much time staring off into space. Get a grip on yourself. Get back in the real world. But Paul stood his ground. With all respect, Festus, your honor, I'm not crazy. I'm both accurate and sane in what I'm saying. The king knows what I'm talking about.
Hmm.
I'm sure that nothing of what I've said sounds crazy to him. He's known all about it for a long time. You must realize that this wasn't done behind the scenes. You believe the prophets, don't you, King Agrippa? Don't answer that. I know you believe. But Agrippa did answer. Keep this up much longer, you'll make a Christian out of me. Paul, still in chains, says that's what I'm praying for,
Hmm.
whether now or later. And not only you, but everyone listening today to become like me, except, of course, for this prison jewelry. The king and the governor, along with Bernice and their advisors, got up and went into the next room to talk over what they had heard. They quickly agreed on Paul's innocence, saying, There's nothing in this man deserving prison, let alone death. Agrippa told Festus he could be set free right now if he hadn't requested the hearing before Caesar.
Good job.
There you go. What do you think, Gary?
What do I think?
It's all up to you now.
Well, you started
I read it.
you started to say that you didn't feel like he defended himself. And You know what? He really doesn't. He just simply tells his story from start to finish, and I think he thinks it will speak for itself. It's kind of one of those situations where the facts of his life speak for themselves.
Yeah. Well, because he's already appealed to Caesar,
Mhm.
his innocence or guilt, that's not what this is about.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
This isn't a court hearing in the strictest sense of the term.
Okay.
Because regardless, he's going to Caesar, and that it's not really a legal thing as much as it is at that point a political thing.
Okay.
Because when the Jews were there and they were accusing him, and he was like, "Listen, I'm appealing to Caesar," and Festus was like, "Okay, you're going to Caesar." At this point, he's kind of got to let it go. You
Okay.
know what I mean? He can't. It would be a difficult thing for Festus to unwind that
Okay. To,
at this
like, walk
point and
it
say,
back and say, "I'll handle
right.
this." It's like
And I don't even think Paul wants that. Like Jesus has shown up to Paul and he said, "Listen, you're going to be my witness to Caesar in Rome." And I think Paul thinks, "Let's do it." You know what I
right,
mean?
yeah, Paul's completely obedient, but as far as, like, outside of Paul's, you know, instructions, do you think is what you're saying Festus, like, just doesn't really have the power to say, like, "Okay, well, I'll handle this," is almost, like, inappropriate for him to release him?
Right.
Be
He's already granted the appeal.
okay.
And so now he's just got to get him to Rome.
Okay.
Basically, Festus has to set up travel for Paul to Rome and get him to Rome. And
Or,
then Paul's going to have
yeah, or,
his day in front of
Agrippa,
Caesar.
rather, yeah, Agrippa, that's what I'm talking
So,
about. Okay.
and Agrippa doesn't have anything to do with anything. I mean, he would be probably when Festus sends his letter, he's going to have kind of a cover letter to send with the prisoners or whoever appeals to Caesar.
Mhm.
And when he sends it, he'll probably attach Agrippa's testimony that he believes him innocent as well as his own. You know what I mean?
Right.
And or maybe especially Agrippa's, because that will allow Festus to kind of pawn it off a little bit, like it wasn't necessarily he kind of walked in and just got handed this thing, and the King Herod, who kind of rules the place, he kind of thinks he's innocent, but he appealed to you, so here you go, Caesar.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, like, I didn't he wasn't arrested on my watch. He was just
Right.
in the jail when I arrived.
This is just a problem that I inherited,
Mhm.
and they want to go and they appealed to you and they get to go to you. So here you go. But upon hearing it, King Agrippa believes that he's innocent. Would be probably kind of how he would,
Right. So, it's
at which Caesar might think, again, it's probably a tribunal at this point. It's probably not Caesar. I think um Caesar at this point might have been Nero.
hmm.
Um but still, if it was Caesar, he'd be like, why do I have an innocent person in front of me?
Mhm.
Like they'd be annoyed by that. The Supreme Court would be annoyed by it. People in
Right.
general, like judges, you get something in front of them and it's a ridiculous claim by one party and the other party's obviously innocent. They get
Mhm.
kind of annoyed. You know what I mean?
Right. Like
They're like, this
parents,
isn't,
when
you're
kids come with
wasting our
something
time.
stupid, you're like, "You can resolve this. Like, why am I involved in this?"
Right. Which is why courts will send you to mediation and they try to put you through a lot of different hoops to try to get this worked out
Mhm.
to save themselves time,
Right.
essentially, and focus on the things that the really kind of contentious cases that the courts need to spend their
Mhm.
time on. So,
But it's interesting how he does seem to be evangelizing even here, witnessing.
oh, he looks at it like an opportunity to proclaim the gospel. I
Right,
mean,
like,
that's
here we
what he's all
go.
about.
I'm getting higher and higher up. This is awesome. I'm gonna tell
Yeah,
everybody about it, which I think is great. Agrippa's
and
reaction to it's funny.
yeah, he's like, "You're gonna make us." Agrippa's the Jew. I mean, he knows all this. For Festus, this is a little bit on a left field.
Mhm.
Also, he wasn't there. Agrippa lived there. He lived in Judea and Jerusalem and in
Okay.
that area. He would have known this isn't that far removed from when the events of Jesus' crucifixion actually took
Oh,
place.
okay. Gotcha.
I mean, none of this, that's why when Paul says none of this took place, like this wasn't hidden. Like King Agrippa, you know what I'm talking about because I know you heard about Jesus. Your dad had Jesus standing in front of him.
Mhm.
Or maybe I can't remember if it was his dad who did or
Okay.
not. I think it was. But his point is that this is all well known.
Mhm.
Over 500 people saw Jesus after I think that's in 1 Corinthians 15. Let me look, where Paul talks about how many people he gives proof of this isn't like, I'm not trying to get you to believe in something that I'm making up on my own. 500 people saw this guy walking around after he died.
Okay.
That's a lot of witnesses. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I never knew that before doing this discussion, this show with you.
Yeah, and Paul goes back to that a lot. He's like, "Listen, there's a lot of witnesses to this.
Mhm.
Like, God didn't try to keep it a secret. He didn't just rise and trust 12 people that
Well,
they're the only
right.
ones who are going to see him."
I think I was under the impression that it was just the disciples who saw him.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people might be under that impression. It's just not true. I was looking to see here if I could find blah blah blah. Why do I keep risking my neck? I thought it was in 1 Corinthians 15, but I might not be able to find it quick enough. I can't.
Oh,
Anyway,
just where he talks about how many people saw him?
yeah, and he kind of lays out a case. Could be 2 Corinthians.
Okay.
I mix up the epistles all the time.
Well,
I
especially
can't.
the first and seconds, those are
I know. I can't keep them straight.
so
So I do think it's interesting when he's like, for the life of me, I can't see why it's a criminal offense to believe God raises the dead. Because remember, that was the whole difference between the Pharisees and the Sadducees, by and large. I mean, if you were to boil them all down
okay.
to a single issue voter,
Okay.
let's say,
All right.
the Pharisees believed in the resurrection of the dead.
Okay.
And Sadducees didn't. Sadducees just thought this is what it is, and everything else, it's kind of an allegory or it's a spiritual thing or whatever.
Okay.
But listen, people don't rise from the dead.
Are both of those Jewish? Sadducees are Jewish.
They are, and they were both part of the Sanhedrin, so they were kind of the opposing parties. If you think of it in terms today of like Republicans and Democrats,
Okay.
probably the closest you're going to get an idea of
Okay.
what
They
we're
were
talking
all
about. They didn't necessarily
Jewish.
like each other.
Okay.
Now, there were times they worked together,
Mhm.
just like the uniparty
'Cause
today.
they had
Like,
to.
and in Jesus' case, they worked together, and in the Christians' case, they worked together. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? They had similar ends,
Mhm.
and so they would put aside their disagreements
Okay.
to deal with these heretics
Got it.
who were gonna try to bring the whole system down. You know what I mean?
But within it, that's a especially in the context of Jesus, that's an enormous disagreement point.
Oh, it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was.
Mhm.
I mean, you could see the Pharisees were coming at it all through the Gospels. The Pharisees are coming at Jesus from a certain angle, and Sadducees tend to come at him from the resurrection angle, denying the resurrection.
Okay.
And they'd ask him questions where it'd be like, "Well, what if this woman, her husband dies, then his brother marries her?" Remember?
Oh, yeah,
And
they're the ones
she
asking about
goes
the
through all
afterlife.
7 brothers, and they're like, "Well, when they get to heaven, whose wife will she be?" Because there was a ridiculousness, like,
Yeah,
wrapped up into the question. They were trying to make the point, this whole idea is
got
ridiculous.
it.
And Jesus' answer is almost always, whether it's Sadducees or Pharisees, "You don't know God and you don't know how he works." That's what he
Yeah, like, there are no dumb questions, but that's a dumb question.
Right. But Paul does the same thing. He's like, "Listen, I'm no different. I was a Pharisee,
Mhm.
and what I believe in now is any different than what the Pharisees have always believed in. They just missed this natural progression of it." You know what I mean?
Right.
Because, and he gives the reason, I think when he says that reason of they want to keep God for themselves,
Yeah,
that's a
that
great line
it really is.
because that kind of just narrows it all down. It was that worldview. Paul's proclaiming it to everybody. He's opening it up to the Gentiles, because
Mhm.
Jesus is just throwing the doors wide open at this point. And the Jews are like, no, this is not,
Right.
God was not meant for those people. He's our God.
I
And that's how
know.
they think. Maybe not that much different than we think a lot of times.
I was gonna say, I feel like that's, such an antiquated way of thinking, but right away, I thought, "No, there are definitely churches who feel that way."
Oh,
And
yeah.
there I shouldn't even say church. There are churches, but there are also just people who feel that way. Um, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. There's something in us that once we've got God appropriately boxed up, once
Mhm.
we've got him all organized
Yes.
and like set up, and the boxes are good and stacked and whatever, and we know what we're dealing with.
Mhm.
We don't want God like overflowing outside of those those boxes and those barriers, you know what I mean? In that
Right.
organization. There's no place for that. We've already we don't have the extra boxes. We've got it all set.
Exactly. Hold on.
Don't go changing things now.
Exactly. So I'm sorry. I'm jumping to the gospel that we read in church today
Okay.
because at the end of it, so this is in John chapter 9.
Okay.
Jesus said, I came into the world to bring everything into the clear light of day, making all the distinctions clear so that those who have never seen will see, and those who have made a great pretense of seeing will be exposed as blind. Some
Yeah.
Pharisees overheard him and said, does that mean you're calling us blind? And he said, if you were really blind, you would be blameless. But since you claim to see everything so well, you're accountable for every fault and failure. Um,
And
s-
that's coming right off the healing of the blind man, right?
right.
Yeah.
So it was the whole, just that whole Jesus constantly turning everything upside down, saying like that
Yeah.
the blind will see it. But what you just said reminded me of that because they just thought they had it all figured out. They're like, we have it figured out. It's therefore like almost like they're placing themselves higher than.
Yeah.
We're better than everyone else. We have it figured out. We're the saved ones. We're the ones who can see, and everyone else is blind. And it just,
Right.
yeah,
Well, it's funny too because at the beginning of John 9,
mm-hmm.
it says walking down the street, the disciples do the same thing. Like, it's in them. It's in all of us.
Right,
Is my point. It may
right.
not be as well developed as it was in the Pharisees,
Yeah.
but that wanting to box God up and get him well defined, I think, is the way to
Mm-hmm.
think of it.
It's a
God
natural
doesn't.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, as humans, that's what we want.
Mm-hmm.
So they're walking down the street, and Jesus saw a man blind from birth, and his disciples say, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, causing him to be born blind?" Because someone must have sinned. People aren't just born blind in their mind, in their
Yes.
paradigm of how they think.
Right.
And Jesus just says, "You're asking the wrong question. You're looking for someone to blame.
Mm-hmm.
There's no cause and effect here. Instead, look for what God can do." Like, those are real different paradigms.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus walks into a situation and he isn't looking at, oh, who's to blame for this? He's looking at, how can I set it right? What can
Right.
God do to correct it? What can I do as God to step in and make and redeem this situation?
Right. And instead of being thrilled that God's grace is available to everyone,
Yeah,
they're just bothered by the fact that they're not the only ones.
right. They want to keep it to themselves.
Mhm.
And I do think that's a natural. I think sometimes we see something and we want to keep it because it's easier to keep it to ourselves. If we open it up, other people will have they could have all kinds of opinions. There could be all these disagreements about
Mhm.
things. If
Mhm.
we just kind of can keep it nice and tight right here
Mhm.
for our little group,
Yep.
then we're all on the same page. There's nothing to worry about. We're not going to be challenged all that much because we've got it kind of well defined. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Mhm.
And I don't think that's what God came to do.
I know there are people too who are bothered by it. People who live a faithful life. They're raised this way. It's how they work and strive throughout their whole lives to live the right way. And it bothers them that someone who comes to faith very late in life, even at the last moment, it bothers them that the same grace and
Yeah.
salvation is offered to that person. There are
That
people
again, I
who
think
feel
is
like that's unfair.
you remember the parable that Jesus
I was gonna
taught,
ask if isn't there one?
there's a parable where he talks about the farmer coming and hiring laborers, and he hires them in the morning, and he says, "Listen, I'll
Yes.
give you, let's call it $1 a day. I'll give
Mhm.
you $1 a day." Okay, perfect.
Mhm.
And he comes back mid-morning and he says, "Listen, he's looking for more. I'll hire you for $1 a day." And he comes back at noon, and then he comes back late in the day
Mhm.
and he says, "Listen, I'll give you the same amount." They all get done with the work for the day. The people who worked all day come up and he gives them what he told them he'd give them, $1.
Mhm.
The other people who only worked for a little while come up and he gives them what he told him he'd give them, $1. And the ones who worked all day are like, "What are you doing?"
Right.
And he said, "Well, Oh, why do you feel misused? I told you exactly what I'd give you, and I gave it to you just because I want to give them the same thing. How are you ill used in that?
Right.
So that is a common thing, I think.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
I'm
And
so
that's
glad
what
you
Paul's
remembered
running
that because I
into.
was gonna ask, isn't there a parable that
Yeah, and
demonstrates
it's
that?
a really, I think it's what you find in people if you bring up and you question, which I
Mhm.
of course do, the um the eternal conscious torment view of hell. Remember, we've got
Yeah.
there's three views of hell.
Mhm.
There's the kind of traditional view given to us over 2,000 years by Augustine in the Roman Catholic Church,
Mhm.
that if you die not in Christ, you roast forever in the flames of hell, and Christians roast marshmallows over you and brats and everything
Mhm.
else to the screams of the damned,
Right.
right?
So
But anyway,
awful.
so that's one way that, and that's been the traditional way to look at it. Well, if you try to bring in something else, if you try to bring in, well, maybe people just die. Maybe when God said that the penalty for sin is death
Right.
to Adam and Eve,
Like
maybe he meant
like it's just nothingness.
it.
Right. Non-existence.
Well, and the idea is that maybe we are probably, I believe, we're not immortal. In other words, God didn't create man inherently immortal. We we move into immortality in Christ. Life, we find life through Christ. That's how we enter into it.
Mhm.
Otherwise, we're dead already,
Okay.
right?
Mhm.
So we're dead already. When God told Adam and Eve, good preview for Genesis.
Mhm.
When God told Adam and Eve that in the day you eat of that tree, you'll surely die, and then the serpent said, "You won't surely die." They were both right from different perspectives.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah. I see what you're saying.
And and it's the same kind of thing, but you get the same reaction in people. They're like, "Well, no, there has to be more than that. They have to be punished more." Or that God might be working with people, that there might be a chance to accept Christ after this life.
Mhm.
You know, and Catholics would look at it as purgatory or whatever, and
Right.
that's a little more defined probably than how I would look at things, but it's a
Yeah.
similar idea.
Mhm.
I think purgatory is they're already saved, they just gotta get their sins burned out of them a little. Wouldn't that be
It's a
kind of a simplistic
purification
way of looking
it's
at
a
it?
purification time, yes.
So it's a little different. What I'm thinking of is an afterlife where people do, through their experience of moving further into themselves and further into hell, find that emptiness and where their eyes are open to it, and finally they choose Christ. Well,
Mhm.
that my point is presented to people, they don't like it. Christians don't like that because they want people to burn. They want people to get what they deserve. And they think, well, I've done pretty well the last 20 or 30 years. You know what I mean? Even if they wouldn't say it, it's in us. And that's what that parable points out to, and it's what you just said. And it's across the board true. It's real hard. We tend
I don't feel
to
that
box people
way.
up. Not only do we want to box God up, we want to box people up.
Right.
We want to be able to have them well defined and pigeonholed, so we know right where everybody goes. You know what I mean?
And I don't know, I don't feel that way. Agrippa makes a joke, you know, "Keep it up much longer, you'll make a Christian of me." Paul's like, "That's what I'm praying for, whether now or later. Not only
That
you, but
actually was something.
everyone listening today to become like me, except of course for this present joy."
You
That's right.
notice that when Paul says whether now or later,
Mhm.
that's a different message than, at least in the evangelical church, than you get when they're trying to get you to walk aisle, raise hands and walk aisles and things, and they're like, "You got to get saved today." Paul doesn't box them in quite like that.
Yeah, that's
Paul seems to
interesting.
be like, now would be great, later'd be great. I don't know how God's going to do it. Maybe I'm just the seed that's going to be planted, and He's going to use other things. But whether now or later, what I'm praying for is that somehow you'll come to the knowledge of Jesus. You know what I mean?
Right. That's
Paul
interesting.
doesn't box God in, and Paul doesn't box Agrippa in. And
Yeah,
I think that that's an important.
he definitely understands that it's a process. I mean, look what he does. He spends just years in prison writing letters to all these
Yes.
communities, encouraging them. Um, he must know. He must just know. Not everyone's going to have that bright light that knocks you to the ground and changes you in one moment. Like he understands the seed planting process.
Well, remember that Paul, when he was blinded in his conversion
Mhm.
experience, which he talks about, but Paul spent 3 days let's say in darkness,
Mhm.
before his eyes were opened. Does
Right.
that make some sense?
Mhm.
God in Jesus in his conversion experience talking to Paul says, I'm sending you off to open the eyes of the outsiders so they can see the difference between dark and light and choose the light so they can see the difference between
Mhm.
God and Satan and choose God. But I don't think that I think what you just said makes a lot of sense. I don't think Paul's boxing it into like he's had the experience where it's taken a process to move from blindness to having his eyes opened.
Mhm.
With Paul, it took 3 days. With other people, it might take 3 weeks. With other people, it might take 3 years or 3 decades. But I think Paul understands there's a process sometimes of moving from darkness to light.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And I feel like he's just trying to be one of the first rays of light to Agrippa. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I don't think he feels the need to be the final ray. That's why he says either now or later. But I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna give it my best shot right now. That's kinda what you
Right.
get from Paul.
Yeah, you know what's neat about Paul too? As confident as he is and as committed he is to his mission, he's not
Mhm.
arrogant at all.
No.
He knows he's just delivery, just the messenger. I'm just the messenger.
And
I
don't you
hope
think that's probably because and I still cannot believe that you could imprison and probably kill believers in Jesus
Mhm.
for a period of time and not have that stick with you, like, that's gonna keep Paul humble the rest of his life, well, probably for all
Oh,
eternity.
you mean because of his past?
Yeah, and he talks about it. He
Mm.
talks about being the aggressor, you know what I mean?
Yes.
The arrestor is suddenly arrested by Jesus. It
Mhm.
says that someplace. I don't even know where it says it. Where did I read that? I
Oh,
don't
I don't
know. It must have
know.
been in some commentary.
That
I
the
thought that was a good line.
that is a
I
good
don't
line.
see a lot of good lines in commentaries.
Sorry, you were saying that the arrestor, yeah, became the arrested.
Is arrested by Jesus in this conversion story.
Right, you're absolutely right. Well, especially learning after the fact that he was wrong.
Yeah.
Um, I know it he does carry it with him, but right, but I wonder if that also makes him fearful maybe not fearful, but realistic about the possibility that this might be his last chance to speak about it. So
Mhm.
he takes
Yeah, and
every
if so, I'm
chance.
gonna do it.
He takes every chance he has, like, "Nope,
Like, he's been put here for one
they
reason, and
might
that one
execute me
reason is
tomorrow."
exactly.
Wow.
But I also think that the difference in perspective between Festus' reaction to Paul's story
Mhm.
and Agrippa's reaction is kinda interesting. Like, Festus is just like, "Oh my Paul, you're crazy. You've been reading too much." And there was a place where the Romans tended to think that way about philosophers and philosophy in general. They'd be like, you spend too much time in books and whatever, and you're going over the edge." And I think that's what he thought about Paul.
Okay.
You're too much in Paul. Like you're not even in reality. But Festus' response is by and large the world's response to the
Mhm.
gospel. But Agrippa's response is something else. Agrippa's response is kind of this in other versions, other translations, it'll say, almost you've convinced me to be a Christian, something along
Mm.
those lines. And it's that almost like there are people who almost get there.
Mhm.
And then for whatever reason, we see that in the story of the seeds, you know, it starts to spring up or something starts to take root, but the cares of this world kind of choke it out
Mhm.
before it has any chance to kind of do anything. And I think that's what you see in Agrippa. I think that he's got too much invested to just become a Christian. I mean, come on. What is he
Right.
gonna stop being a king? I mean, what you know what I mean?
Mhm. You know what's beautiful about it, though? They get to choose, like, we all get to choose it.
100%.
So, I mean, you could be almost there, and guess what? God's not gonna do it for you, like, it's totally up to you,
Yeah,
and that's a great thing because when you get there, "I chose this." I wasn't
yeah.
yeah, I wasn't pushed into it, I wasn't brainwashed or whatever.
So I think that you got these 3 kinda dominant characters in this
Mhm.
story. You've got Paul, and Paul's just solid. Like, we
Yeah.
always know where Paul's gonna go. Paul's
Mhm.
gonna tell the story about Jesus, tell the story about himself because he thinks that his conversion story is one of the best arguments for Jesus. I was doing everything I could to kill all of them. And look at the radical life change in me, you know?
Right.
If I can do that, imagine what God can do in you.
Mhm.
And then you see Festus, who just doesn't really have any space for it. you know?
Yeah.
This is all just crazy talk to what are you people raising from the dead walking around? What are you talking about? But then you got Agrippa, and Agrippa has the background of knowing of hearing these stories, knowing his dad had Jesus in front of him.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like I my guess would be that knowing about Jesus and Pontius Pilate, like he knows kind of what he's dealing with. And
Mhm.
then he's had this time for those seeds to kind of work. And then Paul plants it again and he's like, if you keep this up, man, I'm not going to be able to hold back.
Yeah.
But it also does make you wonder what's it going to take cuz with in Agrippa's case, he had too much to lose to give it up and be a Christian for God.
Mhm.
At least in his mind. I don't mean he really did,
Right.
but that
Yeah.
how we think. Like
Right.
we've got so much invested.
In a worldly sense.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like we might think, I've invested and then maybe God calls us to go, yeah, take an extreme version.
Okay.
God's calling you for whatever reason to go be a missionary
Okay.
someplace. And
Like,
you've been working
sell
your way
all of my
up the corporate
belongings.
ladder and you're
Yeah.
like, dude, this is not what I am all about.
Right.
Right?
Right.
He puts a call on your life that is just simply too disrupting.
Mhm.
And I think that's the problem that Agrippa had. It was just, there was no path to an easy believism, if that makes sense.
Right.
There was no way for him to just raise a hand to walk an aisle and go on with his life as king. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well, I was gonna say, would he have to, I guess, yeah. I mean, it would change things significantly for him. Do we
Well,
know
it
what
always
happened? Do
does.
we know what happened to him? King
I
Agrippa?
don't, I'll look into that and see if I can get it for us next week. I don't off the top. I probably have to dig into
Mhm.
some Jewish,
Like,
like Josephus
history
probably
stuff?
lists some stuff. Yeah, he was a historian at the time.
Okay.
I know that Agrippa sided with Rome during the Jewish revolt.
Oh, okay.
Probably rightly so, or else he wouldn't have lasted.
Right.
But you know what I mean?
Yes.
In other words, he was not part of the rebellion
Okay.
against Rome. He was far more on Rome's side
Mhm.
in things. But
Interesting.
yeah, I think we've got to ask ourselves, and if you're out there and you're hearing this story, or you've been listening to us for a while, or whatever, maybe you just tuned in, but you're hearing the story of Jesus, and you've been
Mhm.
struggling. I'm talking to people not necessarily who've already bought in, who are already consider themselves Christians, but the ones who are just kind of listening, like they're receptive to it.
Mhm.
They want to hear more about it.
Right.
They're kind of working themselves around the edges of all of this. But it's that radical life change that Paul talks about that's like, I don't know that I want to go quite that far. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think that was Agrippa's problem. I think if he could have just given mental assent to some things, if he could have just said, yeah, probably Jesus rose from the dead. Okay. But that's not what we're called. Paul says we're called to a little bit more than that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
When he says, because he talks about preaching this life change, this radical turn to God and everything it meant in everyday life. Like there's a cost to believing. There's a cost to accepting this story.
Right. I feel like for most people, I don't know, I haven't thought this through, but I feel like for most people, the radical change is internal. It's really a radical change of your spirit and your mindset and your priorities. I don't think most people who, like the average person listening to this is going to have to give up like their career or
Yeah, that's
their
true.
or all their belongings. It's not like Jesus is
Right.
outside with 11 disciples saying, "Hey, you're number 12, like leave everything behind and follow me." Like it's
But you have to be willing to.
yeah.
That's
Well,
the thing. And you don't know up front that you won't be called to that is the problem.
yeah. But I mean, but don't you agree that today in
Mhm.
2026, most of us are called that radical change that happens is like it's in your spirit and in your heart.
Yeah. But it can go, I mean,
Sure.
certainly it can go beyond that. I mean,
Mhm.
you can,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I
you know
just
what I
feel
mean? You
like
might be
I feel like, we can judge King Agrippa, but, like, we're not in his position.
right.
Most
That's the
of us
thing. We
are
don't
not.
know.
Right.
we don't know what he was being called to give
Mhm.
up. At least in his mind, what he thought,
Mhm.
he's kind of looking at it as options. And his
Yes.
life is pretty good,
Mhm.
you know?
Yes.
C.S. Lewis talks about how God wants to give us something,
Oh,
but our
right.
hands are full.
Mhm.
And so in his grace and in his love, he empties us and he empties our hands
Mhm.
so that we can receive from him all the life that he has to give. But he doesn't do that with everybody. That we know of, he doesn't empty Agrippa's life. Sometimes we have to choose to walk into that.
Mhm.
And sometimes, frequently, the people that have the most already in
Mm.
this life,
Mhm.
well, they're the least receptive, you know?
Yeah.
They have a lot to give up, and things are pretty good for them. That's why Jesus came to the poor, to the downtrodden, to
Yeah.
the you look at the people that Jesus dealt with, he didn't go to the rulers. He didn't go to the Jesus. Paul says, "Not many mighty, not many wise are called." It's not like the cream of the crop out there.
Mhm.
Jesus is going kind of to the dregs of society, to the people that they don't have anything, that there's no reason, they don't have much left to hold on to. They're desperate. They're just desperate enough to believe him. It's kind of why I think he goes to them.
Mhm.
And we have to get to the same point. Agrippa wasn't there.
Yeah.
Agrippa wasn't desperate enough to take the step to believe. At
Right.
least at this point in the story. I don't know what happened later on. We'll dig into that a little bit. We'll
Yeah, I'm
find
just
out.
kinda
But
curious
um because Paul says whether now or later. So
because I feel
and
like that's a unique reaction in the stories we've read.
it is.
To say kinda like,
It's that
"Ah, yeah, almost. I'm
almost.
almost."
I'm almost there.
Right, it's just funny. It's a funny way of, yeah, looking at him, so it made me curious about him.
Yeah.
Hmm,
So anyway, that's Acts 26. I think we did pretty good, Carrie. We got
yeah,
2 more chapters left, 2 more weeks.
2 more of Acts.
2 more weeks of Acts, and we're going into Genesis. I'm so excited for that. But I don't think that's any different than, you get to the end. I get to this. I'm a builder. We do remodel. We do a lot of things. So you're in a project, and when I
Mhm,
get towards the end of a project, like
yep.
I'm really anxious finally to finish the project and move
Right?
on to the next thing.
Yeah, I get that.
And it's not that I don't love the project or the people that
Mhm,
I'm on. I'm just like, "Nah, I'm ready to go to the next one."
mhm.
I get that way a little bit with this.
I get that. Well, especially we take our time.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Thank
Check
you.
out News, the Wildly Opinionated News Hour, if you haven't. Toddsworld.net.
Yeah,
All the books are up there right now. I'm working on a TikTok shop now,
good job.
but the first thing you're going to find, you go to toddsworld.net, you're going to have links to not every place. You can pretty much get our podcast anywhere.
Mhm.
You're going to find a link right when you go to toddsworld.net. There's going to be links to Spotify, Apple, X, and YouTube. Whatever. I could only put 4 on there. Otherwise, I'd have put more. But if you want to get us on iHeart, you can get us wherever. Also, the books are on there and the merch is on there. The stories are amazing. We're gonna promo them more, but you can go on there. Links will take you directly. There's um, paperbacks, Kindle versions, and audio versions of Witness, Insurrection, Book 1 and Book 2.
Nice, you got
And
him
then,
out there?
yeah, hopefully I'll get the
That's great. That's so great.
audio book, and then there's the paperback and Kindle versions of my novel 9 Mile Point
Oh,
and
cool.
my memoir Leaves That Blew Away. Which, if you enjoy Beers with Jesus, you probably would enjoy Leaves That Blew Away. I think it's a great story anyway.
It is. Wait, do you have an audio of 9 Mile Point?
I don't. I don't have the
Oh,
audio of
okay.
9 Mile
Okay.
Point or of Leaves That Blew Away yet.
Okay, gotcha.
I plan on doing one for Leaves That Blew Away first because it's shorter, and then I will do 9 Mile
Why
Point.
do I
Hopefully,
feel have I
9
heard
Mile
you
Point is about a 400-page novel, so
right. Have I
it's an
heard
effort.
you I haven't heard you read Leaves That Blew Away, right? Ever? You haven't done a
Other than on here where I occasionally read,
okay.
no, I
Okay,
haven't.
gotcha.
So,
I
and
just
that's what
love
I'll
your
do.
voice so much, Todd. I feel like I've
Oh,
heard
you're so
everything.
sweet, Carrie. Wait till I get a new mic. Dude,
No,
I'll
it
sound so
sounds
much better.
great. We're doing great. We just need fancy backdrops like,
That's
we
right.
see professionals have.
Better lighting. That's what Will said.
Right? Yeah.
Suddenly Will's a lighting expert. He's an AV lighting expert.
I was gonna say, Will, I don't need anything more of my face, like, illuminated, extra illuminated.
All right, guys. Join
Thank
us
you.
next week. And listen, I put clips out all the time. You'll find us on TikTok, on the
Mhm.
socials. Send clips to people. Recommend us to people. Say, hey, you got to listen to this show. Then you got to listen to news. They're both great. They're very different, but they're a lot of fun. They're still both us. Just politics and religion, things everybody loves to talk about all the time. All
We
right,
do.
guys. Thanks for joining me, Carrie. We'll be back next week.
Thank you.
Same time, same place.
Sounds
Acts
great.
27.
Woohoo!
Paul's going to light off for the territories on a ship
All
and
right.
then get shipwrecked. It's going to be fun.
All right.
There's some exciting
Nice
times coming.
cliffhanger, Todd.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Thanks, Gary.
Thanks.